The work of the CCMA has come under the spotlight, with some complainants speaking of prolonged processes that often favor the employers. Franazia Still was an employee of Swissport for 5 years, where she was dismissed unfairly in 2013 and says her matter took 8 years to be settled at the CCMA and the Labour Court. She says although the processes ruled in her favor on merits, awards and reinstatement, the employer chose to take the ruling on review, frustrating the process.
Whether there are grounds or no grounds to review, they reviewed because they have the money to. Before they even reviewed, we were given reinstatement with back pay. We went to the sheriff because we were not being reinstated. There was no talk of the back pay. We then instituted the procedure of having it enforced as a court order. And on the very last day, company says, no, we're reviewing. And it was reviewed again. That was an 8-year process.
She says in the 8-year period she lost everything, as there are a lot of loopholes in the dispute resolution process where the Labour Relations Act often favour those with deeper pockets.
In the interim, my children had to change schools. Lost my house, lost my car, got divorced because of all these frustrations. Remember, you promised we're going to reinstate you. You get there and they say, no, we're not reinstating you. The impact, let alone the financial impact. Whether we went to Labour Court or not, we were told we will appeal at Labour Court. And that would now be a Labour Court appeal, and it would just go on. So I settled. And I settled for 6 months of my salary.
In the 8 years?
In the 8 years.
Yeah.
I settled for 6 months my salary for a company that I worked for 5 years and had gotten 7 promotions in 5 years. I settled for 6 months my salary, which was nothing.
Workers' unions are often in the forefront of representing workers at the CCMA and say many workers are struggling to pick up the pieces and get back into the employ.
They make it impossible for you to be reinstated, and the law, unfortunately, it favors them. They are suffering a huge financial prejudices. They can't apply anywhere. They can't be taken anywhere, and they use that reference. They won't be there. They will just tell you that we dismissed her for something else. You won't have a proof on that. Now, workers are being discouraged to do that. And the stats, they are focusing on the South African government, State South Africa, which is giving the stats of unemployment. There are those that are being reinstated are not counted. There's somebody that is sitting on a reinstatement, has got an award, he's still struggling to date.
The unions are calling on lawmakers to look into processes at the CCMA. They accuse the Commission of rushing to offer settlements without considering the merits for reinstatement in a bid to save the jobs.
The law must then be reviewed in terms of this legislation because it is affecting our members. The unions are finding it difficult. We have got to fork the bills of these employees. Only after 7 years, an employee accepts just under peanuts. For instance, they can get even 100,000. That does not even equal to the amount that they were earning annually.
The CCMA says more workers simply choose compensation instead of reinstatement for financial reasons or hostility that follow a dispute.
From the period 2021 to 2022, we had 88% of our cases settled for monetary compensation. So that's a huge amount. That's 38,659 cases. Sometimes that's money owed to the people, but very often it's that little bit extra to settle. And I think very often the reasons are financial. Sometimes there's a lot of hostility, and neither party actually wants, especially in a smaller business, they don't want to go back and be with each other again.
The CCMA will next week host the annual Labour Conference to be addressed by Employment and Labour Minister Thulas Nxesi and Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, and unions are hopeful that these issues will be discussed. Katlego Legodi, SABC News, Johannesburg.